Most of what you call your personality is basically just a bunch of habits and coping behaviors, and I'm going to explain why. So, if you think about a baby or an infant or just a young child, they don't have too many solid ideas about who they are, what they're about. Whereas when we perhaps get a bit older, when things start to look fixed to us, that's when we know we're getting stuck by thoughts or beliefs. So imagine that this whiteboard represents presence or consciousness, awareness. When people talk about the present moment, it's actually a blank moment. When people talk about consciousness, it's blank, just like this board. Now, what happens is we start to develop ideas about the world, about ourselves, and about other people. So we've got this nothingness, we've got our blank awareness, and we paint these ideas. And they're not particularly fixed ideas, but it's when we're starting to get a sense of the world, which often happens around 5 years old, something like that. We start to get these ideas about who we are. Now, what happens inevitably to all of us as human beings is something that is going to come along that hurts. We might call this a trauma. And we have these big traumas. We also have little traumas as well. And when we have a trauma, we start to get a fixed idea about who we are and how we operate in the world. So I'll give you some examples. A fixed idea of who we are might be I'm not good enough. I'm stupid. There's something wrong with me. I'm broken. I'm inadequate. We start to get these core beliefs about who we are. And that's a really scary realization to come true. And the sticky point about this is that these core beliefs, they look like truths. They don't look like beliefs or thoughts. They don't look like ideas. They look like real life. And it's scary. So, what happens is, given the fear that is developed from this belief, we develop a whole set of strategies and coping behaviors to cope with the world, given this new reality that we've created. And what that looks like is we develop what we call a personality, a way of being to cope with this new belief that we've developed. And this line here represents the coping behaviors, the things that you do to navigate a world given this truth. So that might be you then start to identify as a people pleaser. You start to identify as someone that's a workaholic. You start to identify as someone that needs to do anything to avoid this idea that on some level you're not okay. We also develop beliefs about other people. Other people might be mean or scary or just not care about us. We develop these beliefs about the world or life, like life is hard, the world is dangerous, the world is unsafe, things like that. And again, we develop a whole series of habits, coping strategies, and responses to cope with that. Now, we end up then saying that's just the way I am, that's who I am. But only given this thing that you started believing about yourself that's not true. So, what happens is when people talk about being their authentic selves, none of this is your authentic self. Your authentic true nature is much closer to this nothingness. When things start to look solid and fixed to you and unchangeable, that's when you know you're coming up against your beliefs, not real life. When you're more open and you feel more expansive, you're much closer to your true nature. Your true nature is much closer to pure presence and pure awareness than you could possibly imagine. And it's the job of a transformative coach to help you get back to this true nature, to help you see that none of this was true. So, in a way, what we're doing is we're helping you see past the illusory nature of your thinking to help you get back to your true self. And that, in a nutshell, is what we do when we're helping people get back to their true nature.